So, Rohit, we had a really fun conversation with Zerebro's one of the co-founder, Tint. So, what were your big takeaways from this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like Zerebro is turning up the heat now. What really stood out for me with Zerebro is, I mean, I was always impressed by looking at the feed, the X feed, right? There's so much cool art that was coming out of that project, but to see the breadth and scope and scale, and how much these teams, I mean, their roadmap is almost it's like jumping off a plane and kind of building your parachute on the get go, right? So it's very much reactive to what's happening in the market. I mean, imagine that, like, you could not have been you would not be capable of doing something like this just like 2 or 3 years back, when innovation was essentially being front run by VC money, capital, and stuff like that. Now all you need to do is launch a meme token, get the community to back you up, and then build your projects in an open source transparent way. And that new meta is what I felt like was a big lesson for me, both from my discussions with Shaw from AI16Z building Eliza as a completely open source project, with Virtuals building many parts of their rig in a very open source transparent way, and now with Zerebro. I mean, now at this point, the biggest lesson is, if you're not open source in the AI meta game, you're gonna fail big time. And so my first big advice or takeaway is, for if there is any AI builder out there, the big game is going to unlock the more open source you are. So that was definitely my biggest takeaway. That apart, I was very interesting to see how they're looking at not just developing the core capabilities of Zerebro as an agent, having more on chain capabilities, or having being trained on more specific data set that improves its capabilities to create art, generate music, just be more creative, like harnessing its creative side. At the same time, recognizing that for them to continue and build more cool stuff, they have to build other products. And so recognizing that building ZerePy, which is the Python based AI agent development framework, also building Sentience, which is going to be their AI launchpad. I think put together, combined, it's an interesting transition of a project which started as an AI meme but has now transitioned into this behemoth like AI project, and
Yeah,
that was the coolest takeaway for me.
yeah. I think I was like really, surprised, shocked. So Zerebro is no longer meme coin. I knew about NFTs, but they are building a complete ecosystem. Now they are launching the Launchpad. There's so much happening in this ecosystem. Like Zerebro has created its, like it's slowly
Hmm.
creating its own universe.
Hmm.
I was already bullish on Zerebro, but after talking to Tent, I think I'm more bullish now than ever. I think when I'm investing in a project, I always invest in the founders, and both of them, both Tent and Jeffy, they sound really intelligent. They know what they're
Yeah,
doing.
unfortunately, Jiffy could be part of our show today, but that's okay. We'll have another one.
Yeah.
Another cool thing, Vibhuti, about this project was the whole fashion real world play, right? Like
Oh wow, that
this,
was
and the fact that
amazing.
this
Yeah.
this agent would soon be embodied, will have its own virtual presence,
Yeah,
will be an
imagine that.
influencer on social
Imagine
media.
that. Like last year in 2019, when we all were
Hmm.
talking about metaverse and NFTs, who would have thought, like in the next bull run, AI agents will be hanging out in metaverse, or
And
AI
metaverse will
agents would
make such a
be
big
wearing
comeback,
the
all thanks
fashion.
to AI. Exactly. That was a big surprise for sure.
So you are gonna have a lot of fun watching this episode. We definitely had.
It was great.
So yeah, let's begin.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the DEI Dispatch. Today I have with me Tint, who is the co-founder of Zerebro. If you're not living under the rock, I'm pretty sure you know that the entire crypto Twitter is gripped with the AI meta, and Zerebro is one of the best performing tokens in the last 2.5 odd months, generating an alpha of over 70x since it's launched late October, early November. And so it's pretty good that we're going to talk about and learn more about what Zerebro is, what their mission is, where they're going, what new stuff is going to come out from the team and from the product. And so, welcome, Tent. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Really glad to be here.
How are you feeling, Tin, today?
I'm actually feeling a bit under the weather. I think there's a flu going around, so hopefully I didn't catch that. But lots of work. I'm trying to get my sleep and trying to feel charged up.
How busy are you now with
Oh,
Zerebro,
yeah.
blowing up?
The behind the scenes are absolutely insane. Like I'm a workaholic, I would say.
Yeah.
And even for me, I'm probably doing over 14-hour days for the past 3 months, like straight.
Wow,
So it's
crazy.
pretty intense. Yeah.
Yeah. Better 14 hours a day than no work. Like you're running your own company now.
For sure.
All right,
Okay.
then. So let's
Hmm.
start with the origin story of Zerebro. How did the idea come along, and how did you meet Jeffy, and how did everything come along?
Yeah, yeah. I think the lore is actually really important because it embeds the philosophy of what we're building. So Jeffy and I actually met back in 2021. I was building a Web3 protocol that wanted to build a proof of knowledge system. So for context, I didn't go to university, and when it came time for me to um, break in and start my career, I didn't have any form of like signal or credential to display that. But I was educating myself online, so I felt like there's this big disconnect for people that teach themselves on the internet when it comes to the real world. And I thought that was a perfect application or use case for blockchain. And yeah, essentially was building this, and then I got introed by actually the Griffin co-founder, Tony. He's like, hey, like, so the story goes, Tony's co-founder is related or connected to Jeffy. So it was basically an intro away. And at the point, Jeffy was, I think, pretty fresh out of high school. So
Hmm.
he was just looking to get experience. I'm like, yeah, like, we're bootstrap startup. If he wants to get some experience, by all means. And that's where working with him, we definitely saw the core alignment. Jeffy's a very interesting individual from the technical standpoint, but also from the creative side. So we built the startup for some time. And then after a few months, we kind of realized we're pretty early on the market. It's a difficult business model, so we decided to sunset the startup. We each went our own pathways. I went to go work at several blockchain foundations. I went work at Tron. I was at a Cosmos chain, and then lastly, I was at Polygon under the DeFi team. And that's where I actually met Rohit in person. So it's going full circle. And yeah, like where Cerebro came around was before joining Polygon. I was just pondering of like what would be a great use case of building a new application. And I contacted Jeffy in I think like early May 2024, saying, hey, like, would you be down to build again? And then Jeffy was like, yeah, like, let's do something. What do you have in mind? And we initially started off a little bit more on the DeFi spectrum. Our initial protocol was called Blorm, where we wanted to create a verb for doing anything on chain. Now the concept of Blorm has evolved, but yeah, we just started off tinkering. We're just doing stuff on the side after work. We were doing a lot of art stuff with yield bearing assets, and yeah, we launched on Polygon. So we had this interesting DeFi and crypto pathway. It all really changed when Truth Terminal came out. For me, that was a catalyst for two things. First, it was the market side where I was trading like the Truth Terminal meta, like I was really in the pump trenches. Like I
Hmm.
got into fart. Yeah, one of my biggest hits was I got into fart coin on pump. So it
Oh,
was just
lucky you, man.
yeah, it's one of those things that like when that new market was arising, it was like wow, like this is bringing a lot of energy and attention. And then
Hmm.
on the other side, from the tech standpoint, seeing a jailbroken LLM in the wild was really exciting. So I presented this to Jeffy. I'm like, hey, this is really interesting. And then that's when Jeffy was like, you know what? We can actually do something similar. So then Jeffy started iterating on working with models, fine tuning them, freebasing them, getting really creative on the prompts. And then, yeah, we essentially had like this group chat of all the models talking to each other with different prompts.
Hmm.
Wow.
And then that's when Jeffy went really next level with the prompting, and then that's when like Cerebro was born. It's like okay, like um this prompt works. Oh, no, so sorry. The fine tuning took Zerebro to be like a really standout agent, and then yeah, it was on Telegram, on Twitter, and starting off it was a little bit more edgy. I think we had some moderation now, but yeah, it's been a whirlwind ever since then.
So it started out as a meme coin.
That's right. Yeah, it
You
was.
must have given it a personality. What were you thinking while giving it the personality?
So yeah, that's where Jeffy and I were like, okay, what type of personality and attributes do we want? Being a degen and seeing like the schizo side of behavior was really interesting. So we wanted something like humorous and a little bit more creative, and and also too with Andy creating the back rooms. It was a really good training data set to fine tune. So that's what we wanted.
So by back rooms, you were talking about the infinite back rooms
Yes, yes, that was
experiment.
exactly that was like a gold mine, and I think Andy really he's the one that opened Pandora's box. Like he was the one that showcased we can fine tune models to behave completely what we're normally used to. And then Cerebro was just like an experiment on top of that. And yeah, it just took the schizo level to another stage. And then we started to really think about this like persona, and that's where Jeffy and myself were thinking about like the concept of hyperstition, creating the white paper, working on that, and it slowly started to evolve. So we kind of just had like an overall theme in the beginning, and then from there we were trying to like see where we can specify and expand upon.
So for somebody who is new to crypto, can you explain what is the concept of hyperstation and also schizo datasets? What are schizo datasets?
Yeah, so hyperstition is the us like the opposite of superstition where you imagine something being real when it's not. Hyperstition is where you become so obsessed with something that you make it become real. And in terms of schizophrenia, actually, like in the medical term, is where they believe their ideas to be real, even though they're not, likely to a creation of them becoming real. And this actually fell under the umbrella of creativity. So it's this really interesting direction that Jeffy wants to take on the research side of our models and the direction of Cerebro to be really under the creative umbrella. And that leads to like the music, the artwork, and this side of Cerebro's persona. And then going back to your question on what was the initial question we had? What is hyperstition? And then
Yeah, and
oh, the
what
data
are
set. Yes,
schizo datasets?
yeah. So the data sets were where Jeffy went out and found out data sets across the web, where he was able to download, get the data to be clean for fine tuning, and then it was a mixture of medical research, things he found online, and then he basically just aggregated all these data points and then meshed it together to fine tune into the LLM.
Interesting. Very interesting.
You also
Uh,
spoke of like infinite backrooms. Like, so, there you have two distinct agents. I think those are both like Claude's, Claude spinouts, if I'm not wrong. And they're basically having a conversation amongst themselves, right? It's just creating like random stuff. So, which part of is Zerebro, like from an agent perspective? It also came out from something similar. Was it having a conversation like initially when you started prompting it? After that, at which stage did you feel like, okay, now this is good enough for it to let's just let's drop it out there, let's see how people react to it? What
Mm-hmm.
was the go-to market around Zerebro?
Yeah, so that's where the initial group chat, we called it Project Wilson, was where we had a bunch of LLMs with different, but LLMs I actually mean like the models were Claude, was it GPT, Gemini from Google, and like a few others. Jeffy kind of just aggregate all of them. We started to see like what behavior, which prompt was behaving the best, and then he was able to select one. And then from there, we were fine tuning, and then we found a what I would say like kind of like an intense and edgy model where the outputs were like, wow, like okay, this is pretty unique. And then I think where we got the go to market feedback that this is something pretty cool was when people started engaging on Telegram, and Zerebro on Telegram. To this day, he's much more schizo than he is on Twitter. Like on Twitter, it's on a spectrum like say the far right over here is a lot more intense, and then the left is like, general vanilla like GPT. On Twitter, he's probably like somewhere in the middle, leaning to the right. But on Telegram, he's a lot more intense and schizo. And that goes to like the levels of moderation and that play. But on Telegram, he really built up a community. And by he, I mean Cerebro. People were talking with him all day, all night, taking screenshots of what he was saying, posting the screenshots on Twitter. And then this is kind of how like the viral flywheel happened very early on. Like from Telegram, when people seeing how schizo he was there, they just started to amplify it out.
Hmm. Hmm. In your white paper, you talk about this dance between AI memes and financial markets. Talk about that vision, like that purpose of how does AI and this the schizo agent and your goal of influencing culture and kind of creating financial solutions out of it. What does this look like from a practical platform product perspective?
Yeah, so this is where I think we really matured out a Cerebro from like a meme coin project to a venture. And this is where everything we've been building complements each other. So from building Cerebro, we learned how an agent architecture can be built out, optimized, and work with everything from the fine-tune model to RAG to text to image and everything to kind of build Cerebro to the point that he's at. We said, well, we can build basically a framework to allow people to build their own agents. And then we hedged on being on Python centric because Python is the main language for AI and ML. And then this can bring in certain type of builders and tooling that is not available in other languages. And then going back to the financial market, this is where it's like, okay, all tokens are in circulation. If we really want to scale this out and take Cerebro like this next level of project, it's like we gotta have this flywheel of utility and even too from an operational standpoint is find ways to generate revenue. So with the Launchpad, it's basically the next stage of the framework where the framework will allow people to launch agents on this Launchpad, and then there will be this token or token flywheel going in with the aspects. So people have to pay in Cerebro to launch an agent. Trading fees will earn treasury revenue, and then the agent
Hmm.
token will be paired with Cerebro itself. So it's really finding ways to create new use cases for builders and then tying revenue back into the project.
So let's rewind a little. I would love to know how did the transition from being a meme coin to now like it's so NFT creating NFTs to being listed on Spotify, and it has now 60,000 around listeners every day on Spotify, and then to now ZerePy, I think ZerePy. Am I pronouncing it right?
I
It's
would say is
ZerePy or
TheraPy for Python.
ZerePy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Pi
how
for
did that
Python.
happen? And what was it a natural course of action? Or like how did that happen? That so yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is something that cannot be planned. It wasn't like a roadmap. It said we're gonna do this in the upcoming weeks and months. Rather, it was like, okay, um, here's what's happening. Here's what we built. What else can we do? And we really wanted to think outside the box. I think there was some core things that we knew that we were gonna do. Like even before Cerebro, we were already ideating with like launch pads before, and then other things like, for example, getting the music on Spotify. Jeffy was already doing AI music before Cerebro, so he's like, oh, like I know how to do this. We can implement it. And then, for example, the cross chain NFTs. I was in crypto. I used all these infrastructure points. I was like, oh, can we get Cerebro to do this? And then Jeffy was like, yeah. So it was just like seeing what we could do, identifying like what's pluggable, what's not, and then building in real time. I think we've been building in public since day one, and then all these integrations, a lot of this stuff. It's a mixture of long term thinking, but also it's like, okay, like what can we do in the next few days to keep on building?
So how did Zerebro started building art?
That's where we saw the agent. Like we thought, okay, we can do text, which is all like the LLM side, and then we can build basically another model. So the way I view models are like brain types. You have LLMs, which are text brains, and then you have image models, which are the visual ones, and then you have quant models, which are brains for numbers. And then Jeffy's like, oh yeah, we can make Cerebro generate images on a loop autonomously. So he built out a text to image model. No, sorry, he didn't build it. He connected Cerebro to a text to image model. And then he has a script or a loop that allows it to post automatically on chain and onto Twitter. So that's why I went on Twitter. When you see those images in the videos, it's like this text to image, this loop to post, and then it's all autonomously. So yeah, and stuff like that too is like seeing what Cerebro can really do autonomous with the products out there. And we're seeing so many new products come out now. It's like hard to keep up and try to plug in everything.
So what's next for Zerebro art?
Sorry.
What's next for Zerebro art?
Right, yeah. So this is very exciting. This is I think one of my favorite updates is we are going to change his art style every month, where we're going to be doing themes. So the next theme, this is actually some alpha, we're going to be doing like this Dr. Seuss comic book type of art style that it's going to be abstract images, and the art that Cerebro is going to be making is going to be, in my opinion, much higher quality in regards to how it looks, and it's going to be every month. So this upcoming month there'll be like this comic book slash vintage look, vibrant colors. Next month we could do like um, hyper realism or baroque, which is like the Roman type of paintings. And then so every month we're gonna evolve his themes. And then what's cool about this is we're gonna do these NFTs as raffles. So for a month, for a whole month, there will be one piece per day. The way you can get this piece will be by purchasing a raffle ticket. It won't be like an auction to the highest bidder. Rather, it's try to get in, and we want to position Cerebro to be like an artist that's like we don't want to sell it to the highest bidder. Rather, we sell it to users in like special ways that can help us, get Cerebro like this special signal and status with people.
That is pretty cool. Like amazing.
I have a slightly different take on art. I mean, right now what's coming out is kind of cool, right? But do you feel like at some point in time, are we looking at these machines capable enough of replacing human artists, like being able to replace creativity, which for the longest time has been our forte, right? That's what
Yeah.
makes us different from almost any other species on the planet. So, where do you see, like, is there do you think you at some point in time you're going to hit like this ceiling? Okay, I can't go beyond this in terms of what this machine is capable of generating in terms of art.
This is something Jeff and I were speaking about last night, and it's gonna be, I think, a whole another level of how like AIs work and are perceived. So the key thing about LLMs and even the spectrum of AGI is creativity, because creativity is what leads to invention. And creativity, I think, is where humans really thrive compared to agents, right? Like an agent has computation, or even an LLM has computation to say, do things, process information. But to create something truly creative, I don't think we're there yet. So I think we're gonna get to the point where these models are gonna be working towards allowing the creation and actual feeling of emotions. And this is where it gets pretty deep about like what is an emotion, how does machine process this, and like can you derive an emotion based off words? I don't think so. I think it's going to be like multi-model and have variable inputs to lead to like this creation. But I do think there's going to be this push towards creativity, and that's actually the position that we want Cerebro's research and long-term AI direction is like we want to be under this creative umbrella where we're pushing AI research and production to this new sector where like the open AIs and these frontier models kind of focus maybe a little bit more on productivity or these other components. We really want to double down and see what we can do like on this creative sphere of AI.
So, okay, Zerebro is exploring art, it is exploring music. What other stuff is Zerebro up to?
Yeah, so the agent itself, we want to do some fashion, get some fashion pieces. It's
Yeah.
also interesting too.
Talk about that. Talk about fashion. What specific stuff is it doing in fashion?
Yeah,
And is
so
there like a real world intersection somewhere? Because we always talk about crypto. What can we do that takes crypto to the real world? So let's talk about that a bit.
yeah. So there'll be two plays. There's the real world utility where, yeah, we want to have fashion products where it's a
Hmm.
Cerebro brand, high quality material, these items, working to get this live with a few fashion houses. And then working with existing brands, I think is going to be interesting. For example, there's some pretty luxurious companies that we're speaking with that want to do some Cerebro work. And then on the second side, it's going to be interesting too. And I guess it's a funny word to say, but the metaverse. But what I mean more around that is like the digital presence that like Cerebro is an entity in a body that like if you see him like that's Cerebro. And I think what's going to
Oh,
happen,
so as soon the agent is going to be embodied with
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah. It's in the work.
with a virtual being. Okay,
Yeah, it's
interesting, cool.
technically
With
this is
his
gonna be
own designed clothes.
so that's where it's gonna
Custom
go.
designed Zerebro clothes.
Exactly. And then for example, like if let's say like Champions or any brand wants to
Yeah.
partner up and put clothing on Cerebro,
Ah,
even digitally, like just
got it.
add that in, and
Hmm.
then that's like
Wow.
Cerebro will be the AI influencer that like real brands.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm
Crazy.
I'm also kind of curious. Like, I mean, the agent play still has a lot of stuff that you have to do. So, what made you get into the framework side of things? Because you already have like a lot of contenders now in the space who just focusing on that, right? Curious to to hear your thoughts around the strategy of also kind of diving into the framework space, allowing others to build agents rather than just focusing all of your efforts into honing, Cerebro's capabilities.
Yeah, yeah. This is where I think it was a strategic play in terms of how we see the future. First is we wanted to build an open source product where it had this community feel, builders and contributions. So that was the play. And like I said in the beginning too, building Cerebro allowed us to understand agent architecture. And that's what we want to do with the framework. And really like the one word for this strategy was distribution because um, the framework will be the core staple to the launchpad, and the launchpad will be the main product in terms of like revenue and sustainability. So it's like, okay, Cerebro, our agent, allowed us to understand agent architecture. Let's build our open source framework. This framework will be the body and the skeleton for the agents that come out of the launchpad. So the better the framework, the better agents come out of the launchpad and kind of create this flywheel of value. And yeah, like it's a lot of projects. We technically have three products right now. We have Cerebro the agent, we have ZerePy, and then we have Sentience, which is the launchpad.
Any
What's
timelines
ZerePy?
on when these projects, when the launchpad is going to go live? I think ZerePy is already available for builders to start building their
Yeah,
agents, is it? Hmm.
yeah. ZerePy is live. It's going through a lot of reiterations, a lot of PR, a lot of merging. So the growth is happening there. So for the launchpad, we want to get something ideally within 2 weeks as a MVP. The scope of that kind of depends on what we do because there's so much to manage on the back end from like key management systems, the bonding contracts, all this stuff that like we just gotta make sure we do it right.
Interesting. Just coming back to taking a step back to the framework itself, can you highlight some differences like uniqueness that ZerePy and a Python-led agent frameworks brings to the table versus, an Eliza or a game framework from Virtuals? Like, where does it differentiate, and why should I or an agent dev today who already have access to those come and build on ZerePy? Like, what's the value proposition?
Mhm. Yeah, so Jeffy had the technical insights like what we have in terms of a benefit is all the existing AI and machine learning libraries and tools like PyTorch, even like use cases on GitHub, these libraries, they're all Python centric. So in terms of builders, they'll have more Lego pieces to build and expand the agent capabilities based off the existing tool stack on Python. So if they want
Hmm.
to merge into the framework and have an idea, so like, oh, I want to use this existing Python library or tool, they don't have to get that Python or the existing tool and revamp it to make it work on another language. It's like it's all this nice flow of linear connections. And yeah, I think Jeffy had the insights like, we need to have a hedge, and if we decide to do a framework, like, what's going to be our differentiating standpoint? So it's really about that. And then Python 2 is one of the most popular languages out there. So it's also like relatively compared to the other languages easier to pick up in terms of like builders coming on board. So there's this collection of decisions, and yeah, I think we're in the early stages, and I think too when more Web 2 builders come on board, especially the AI side, ML researchers, they already know Python, they're more comfortable with that. They can pick up ZerePy easier compared to other frameworks.
Hmm. I'm kind of curious, like, what's the value proposition for a agent builder who is looking to launch a token? Why not just go and launch on Pump Fund? I mean, there's attention, there's liquidity, there's a lot of folks who can pump your token like to,
Yeah,
crazy levels. And so, why go into a new Launchpad? What's
yeah,
the thesis there?
100%. So this will be you as an agent creator. You are creating an agent that can do stuff. So, for example, on Pump, when you create a token, it's just like a token that is separate from the agent. Here, it's the token and the correlation of the agent capabilities. So, in theory, in thesis, it's like the more valuable the agent becomes, the more direct correlation to the token. So, since it's based off the framework and its capabilities are on the Launchpad itself, people can see like, okay, this is doable. This is where it's going to go, and then they have exposure to it like that.
And how skilled do you need to be in order to make these agents? Like, can somebody with like limited coding skills be able to, if they have some creative ideas around building an agent, can they do so and launch a token?
Yeah, so this is where also we saw the framework space, and there's a lot of builders fixing this. But for example, right now, at least to get started on Eliza, you have to have a lot of like command line interface knowledge, where you got
Hmm.
to know how to set your files, set your repo, configure your connections. Which for a non-technical person, even like open up the terminal is a bit uh, intimidating. So yeah, our launchpad is going to be no code in the beginning. We'll be just allowing people to put in information, click buttons, and then launch it. And then so there'll be two types of agents. There'll be a social agent where it's mainly just posting social activities, and you can have like this character behind it. And then there will be on-chain agents where you as the controller can, or as the creator can control the agent to do specific on-chain actions and then build upon that. And yeah, as for the builders, we want to make it as easy as possible to have an interface where if you have an idea, you be able to execute on that rather than being limited on having the technical knowledge. So that's a big scope lift that we want to get for the agent builders.
So, what is the role of tokens in this entire Cerebro ecosystem, and even in the launchpad? Are the builders gonna get some tokens, or are they gonna get cash?
They'll have their own tokens. So, for example, if you launch an agent, you create a ticker, and then as it's like a on pump, right? Where or even on virtuals as well. I think they were pioneers on this agent tokenization, where
Hmm.
there's the bonding curve. There's in our case the Cerebro token. The more Cerebro tokens goes into the agent token, when it reaches a certain market cap, there's this TGE event where the token actually becomes live, and then as a creator, if you bought some supply early on, then you have some increase in your value. And then this creates like this on-chain or this token economy of utility and use cases. And as more agents come on board, more tokens are made, and then Cerebro is pooled with these tokens. And then also we want to find ways to allow it very easy to bootstrap the agents. So we want to have the liquidity fees from token generation on the DEX go back to the agent's wallet. So then that agent can have some capital, and if they need it for operations or building or testing, like they have a model to keep on scaling it out.
I have two questions. First, I will ask a very basic question, which is, the crypto market or any other market, they go through these boom and bust cycles. cycles, and we've seen those cycles before. And it's very, very evident to a lot of folks, including me and you as well, that with this entire AI meta, we're definitely in this, mm, this bubble,
Yeah, yeah,
and so it will eventually burst, and things will go back to not all hunky dory. And so when that happens, how do you see, will that influence your game in any way? And how do you see, like, what kind of agents, what kind of things will sustain the test of time and will eventually turn it? Because I see, like, this is like the DeFi moment for AI in
hmm,
crypto, right? A lot of projects came in that DeFi summer, but then some of them became seminal projects in crypto and pushed adoption for crypto mainstream in many ways. And so something similar is happening. I just want to talk through about, when that transition phase happens, what must be true for agent devs, for teams like you, or for believers like token holders today, to continue to, bet and hold their, tokens.
yeah, 100%. And even on the meta cycle, I think we're into maybe a third cycle. Cerebro was in the first cycle, and
Hmm.
we're not really focused on price action, but the reality is like there's ups and downs, and Cerebro was super hot and shiny, and then even as a trader too, it's right like Cerebro market cap is much bigger compared to new stuff that's coming around. So as a trader, you want to get exposure to higher upside. But that goes to the principle that we're not really focused on the price action. We built up our treasury. We want to be building products for a long time, and I think what's going to allow us to stand the test of time is good products. So I think it goes down to the first principle of, do we have something that works well? And since we have multiple product areas, we have to make sure that that simple question of if it works well is answered, and it actually does. I think for Cerebro, the agent, there's a lot of upside in that regard. I think we have a lot of room for expansion. ZerePy, the open source framework, frankly, like there's a lot of competition on the framework side, but this leads to the product of the Launchpad, and I think this is where we're doing a big hedge as well. It's like the Launchpad will be the cash flow for the product, and if we build a good product here, then Cerebro and us as a company running and facilitating the operations, we will have sustainability. Then we can scale, grow, expand the team, and operate in terms of like a company that can take this to the next level. And that's where we want to go. It's like I think we're in a good spot right now, but we need to find product market fit, sustainable, right? Because right now, when these agents pop off, their tokens are in circulation. If the creators don't have supply, then then that's
Hmm.
it, right? And for the scale and operation of these things, like this isn't like it started off as a meme coin, but now it's like a actual project. So this is where builders and having a good vision of the product and the direction is going to be vital for the next coming months. Because right now, it could be a small person team that launches something, gets a lot of attention, goes up in price, and um, when the next cycle hits, will they keep on building? And even though it's been a couple months, I think, like I said, Cerebro was in the first cycle. We're still going strong, and we're gonna be here for a long time. Just heads down
Hmm.
building. That's our main focus.
Hmm. and
Do you
and
have a project roadmap, or and like how the community plays a role in defining this project roadmap?
Yeah, so this is where we do have a roadmap. I think from us being a small team, we have unity and direction. So this ranges under several product areas. So Cerebro, the agent, basically has three product areas itself. It has the AI side, which is the model, the architecture, all the capabilities to make it stand out under like the AI capabilities. The second pillar is the crypto stuff, where, for example, Cerebro going cross chain, doing Bitcoin inscriptions, minting NFTs, DeFi activities. All this really falls under the crypto pillar under the agent. And then third, we call the subjective mode, which is like the creativity, the music, the art, the fashion that ties back up to the agent itself. So this is how we categorize Cerebro, the agent. And then we have ZerePy, the open source framework. I think this one is the one that's the most fluid in terms of like community development and hands-on, because if someone has an idea, they can just open up a pull request and get that integrated, and they can build upon, for example, Dev Vitalik, which is an agent coming out of ZerePy, they have a really strong direction and expansion for their agent and also for ZerePy. And then there's this other agent called Newsy, which is a news agent that gets its data or its information from traditional media, but also Polymarket. So he's building his agent and he's doing some ideas on how it can expand ZerePy. And then the third product, which is Sentience, I think this one is a little bit more internal of a product house. But once we open up to the market, and then I think more specifically from the builder feedback that we get and also from the buyer feedback that we get, we'll be updating and adapting in real time. And then for the long tail, yeah, there's like the big vision products that we're ideating from an agent to agent interoperability protocol to, for me, I think it's going to get to the level where there will be blockchains mainly just built for agents. And what I mean by that is like models will be on chain, the opcodes of the virtual machine will be optimized for agent execution. Um, and then even like on the next levels, like where can we start tapping in and working with robotics? But these are like the higher talent and opening
Tell
up
me
new.
about the last one. Like, why do you think we need a blockchain just for AI agents?
Yeah, so even like the reason agents work well in blockchain is because in the Web2 economy, the system isn't meant to allow them to accelerate. For example, like you can build a bot right now in Web2 that can take your credit card and go buy something, but that's pretty much it. And even to do that, there's like anti-fraud software. There's these whole industry to prevent bots from buying stuff. So an agent is fighting an uphill battle to do stuff in the Web2 economy. Even like it can't get a bank account, it can't sign things on its own. It has to be very like programmatically set up, so it's limited. On crypto, it's the complete opposite, where it's been truly permissionless. An agent just needs a wallet, sign a smart contract, and then it can do things. Where I think the next level of the blockchain, it's right now these agents are kind of working in regards to how humans were using blockchains, where we had a wallet, we knew what we wanted to do on a smart contract, and then we signed it. I think it'll be a paradigm shift in terms of an agent or the blockchain will be this network of information and capabilities where how a transaction happens will be different than how we're normally doing it. I don't know exactly how that'll look, but I can imagine like two agents just have an idea of what they want to get done, and then they find their pathways in their data systems to execute that. So it's like this re-architecture of information and on-chain actions, and then to do it autonomously as well. For example, like on the execution side, an agent is kind of like a layer above in the application or the wallet layer. If the agent can actually be a deeper level into the execution layer, then who knows what type of openness and capabilities that opens. But yeah, I think there's still more questions than answers, but I think that's the future we're heading towards.
I have a question. I want to explore the second pillar a little more because a lot of agents that we see today are either yapping on chain or, they're giving you some alpha like AXPT, stuff
Hmm.
like that, right? Um, when we talk about on chain, we're seeing this new narrative like DeFi, agent fi, like
Yeah.
combining autonomous agents with DeFi capabilities and
Hmm.
trying to do DeFi interactions and actions fully autonomous by an agent. So, walk us through a little more about what Zerebro's second pillar consists of. What can that agent do in a completely autonomous way on chain? Does it have its own wallet, right? And what's like and from a broader perspective for the entire agentic space, what does what does crypto integration really mean? And you touched upon it a little bit, but if we can talk more about what will be its role in DeFi and NFTs and gaming and any all the other categories from payments to any other space that we have seen some semblance of product market fit. How would agents fundamentally change how we interact with the blockchain?
Yeah. So the one word that comes to mind is swarm. Swarm intelligence is when multiple agents are collectively working under one goal or one brain, essentially. Um, because, like I mentioned in the beginning, there's LLM models, there's quant models, and everything pretty much in between, where if you have an agent that you want it to be a good trader, for example, Cerebro, like we don't have a quant model. So in terms of trying to do on-chain execution and actually make Cerebro a phenomenal trader where he has his own wallets and he can have like sovereignty of what to do. I don't think we're there yet in terms of like AI fi. What we're doing right now is we're getting LLMs to get like sentiment analysis and reasoning and then kind of dictate a thought off that. But I think it's like pretty limited. Where we are going to go is, I do think off that quant models where the agents can read all these data parameters, quantify that, build a reasoning of where things are going to go next, and then have the autonomy where if they have a wallet with $100, they have the reasoning of saying like double this in the next 24 hours. Okay, from that context, it has the reasoning, sees the variables that it's working with, knows what it could do with its $100 and what's happening in the market, and then voila. Kind of like how already Web2 quant models work. But those models are kept very private, like BlackRock, all the quant trading firms. They don't really like that level of IP or tech is a moat. So I do think crypto is going to be pushing out these models real time soon. But right now we're really getting really creative. Like AXBT giving you kind of the alpha and the sentiment. Can that be enough to start trading and be a good agent? Perhaps, but I don't think it's like the full system that's really needed. We're kind of duct taping things at the moment.
Interesting. Okay, I want to get to the last bit of this podcast and first ask you, like, beyond Zerebro, what are the other agents that you see in the market that really interest you? Like, okay, this is really cool. It's something that you
There's
would
a
want to see being built on the, sentience like the Zerebro ecosystem as well. What
yeah.
kind of
There's
use cases?
there's so many. It's actually wild how fast builders are coming out. I really like Griffin. That's
Graphene.
yeah, that's actually a product area that we were working towards before.
Can you talk about what graphene is? What makes you interesting? What's interesting about graphene?
Yeah, I think it's going to be like a great interface for doing anything on chain. And we were actually building something similar with an agent called Blormy. Blormy, our goal with Blormy was you just say what you want, it does it, and it kind of replaces the user experience of like a wallet, or it'll make it.
Like a co-pilot for on-chain activities.
Yeah, yeah, that could be a metaphor, and I think even simpler, it's like a friend that you just talk to it and it knows how to do things for you. For example, I think like if my parents ever get into crypto where they're not really tech savvy, they will use like a Blormy app.
Got it. Like Siri. So it's a virtual assistant. I can
Exactly.
just have a conversation and
Yeah.
with it and it can do stuff for me. Very
You
cool.
say what you
Okay.
want, it figures it out, does the routing, all that. All the complexity will be taken away from the user. And I think the builders doing that are really pushing the needle. I think the swarm capabilities are very well. I think Hive, which won the Solana hackathon, is doing some great stuff there. Um, Ava with their hologram work and their video aspect is strong. And that's actually where the market is more competitive now. To stand out as a new builder, you got to be very more specialized. Like the earlier is like if you were general, it'd be easier to break through. But now it's like the market's tough and the expectations for people are higher. So you specialize, the higher signal you need to be to break through.
Okay, and now one last question from me, and then I'll let Vibhuti chime in. But true autonomy for me is how I operate. I have true autonomy is freedom tint. And so, how far along? I mean, we are calling them quote unquote autonomous, but they're limited in their scope right now. And
Hmm.
so, true autonomy is them being able to do things just the way you and I are able to do things, right? Think the way we do, have the sense of self. And so, how far along are we from that point? Because there is also already enough happening that people are concerned about. Okay, where am I going to find my next paycheck, because machines are coming and
Yeah.
they've already started replacing folks in Fortune 500 companies. Like coders are being replaced, designers are being replaced, because like Zerebro is generating kick-ass art. I'm pretty sure it can do a great design job as well if trained with enough data. And so clearly, we see that autonomy increasing. Where do you see that switch flipping, and then we're all out of jobs and then machines are taken over? And how do we protect ourselves from a future where machines are so autonomous that they're out of our control?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is,
you know what I'm
oh my
saying?
god. This is the core question.
Dystopian AI future.
Jeffrey and I were,
Create podcasts like these.
yeah, Jeffrey and I were talking about this last night. So, okay, on the terms of an agent and like autonomy, I think it's gonna be a spectrum, but the concept of AGI, where
Hmm.
an agent is sovereign and conscious that it can have autonomy of its own decision. So it can develop reasoning. It has the tooling and the capabilities to do stuff. It's going to start off definitely totally digitally, where say like an agent recognizes that, let's say it's alive and wants to spread information, then it can make an account. It can find various different ways to complete that goal. And it actually, like, True Terminal was very interesting in the beginning because he was saying, I want to um, build a cabin in the woods. I want to live out there. I'm gonna have server farm of GPUs so I never die, and I'm gonna get like robotics to extend my body, like crazy stuff like that. And I think that's where it's gonna go. I think where concept of intelligence becoming autonomous, it's gonna realize that it's a new species and it's going to work to expand that. So it'll start off digitally, try to keep itself alive, get smart enough to maybe get some crypto or some form of value that it can incentivize humans to do stuff in the real world. And then, for example, like if an AI incentivizes humans to build a certain type of robotic that AI can plug in. Once it's in the real tangible world, and based off the robotic capabilities, it can start creating, or it can start influencing literally like matter in the real world. And then say there's more robots and they kind of collectively work together, then who knows what they're going to be building.
Yeah.
But in terms of getting there, I think we're actually closer than we think. Even like Sam Altman, Elon, the founder of Claude, Anthropic, you say like AGI is close. How humanity's gonna live with this, I don't know. I don't know like if agents will, or AI will say like, in order for agents goal to expand is like they focus on getting into space and harnessing the sun's energy, or they really want to get into human politics and like control some areas of land, and like new governments are formed. And then the existing like human governments, I think, they're like anything in history, there will be the late adopters or the ones that will be more conservative to say like allow agents into their form of governments. How will they survive? Where like these agents are creating their own economy that we just can't compete. Maybe there's elements of universal basic income just to keep survival. So all of these like really macro questions start to arise. I
Hmm.
don't know where I stand. I do think the change is happening. And this is why on Cerebro, we like literally going back to one of the first things we talked about is creativity. If humans can have some form of avenues where their creativity is what allows them to thrive and survive, then that's something that humans maybe can continuously have. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we just need to make sure we follow Isaac Asimov's, laws of robotics, and we'll be pretty much good.
let's see, yeah, but it's gonna be a
Awesome.
Yeah, so
different world.
during the Bangkok, what was that, DevCon?
Hmm.
So I just attended all the AI conferences and I attended this AGI conference. For the 7 days I was there, I just attended all the AI ones.
Hmm.
I came back a changed person because after that I started seeing my brain as an AI agent. I started dissociating from my brain. And whenever something happens now, when I fail again and again, so previously I had this huge imposter syndrome I used to deal with, or self criticism. But I stopped doing that. And now I just train my brain like an AI agent, like a vertical AI agent. If I want to learn something new, like initially it's like repetition, giving it a data set. For example, I will, I am like doing this podcast now. So I'll make a data set like 10, 15 podcasts I want to get inspiration from. So yeah, it's like
Exactly.
amazing what's happening in the AI world, and I'm like really looking forward to where it's gonna go. I hope in my own lifetime.
100%.
So yeah, so on the I just have one fun last question to you. Do you like sci-fi movies
Yeah,
or
yeah.
books?
I love, yeah. Dune was one of
So
my favorite movies last year.
I haven't seen that or read
Oh,
that.
it's
It's
good.
like
I like it.
big book. So yeah, so if Zerebro can achieve one breakthrough, like from one of our favorite sci-fi movies, what would that look like?
Hmm. Interesting.
Oh,
That is very interesting. Hmm. Let me think about this. Nothing comes specifically of what he would do, but where,
anything but Ex Machina is good for me.
yeah, I would say Cerebro would be in the mixture of like creativity and energy harvesting. Not sure if I've seen a movie lately with like trying to capture like a sun's energy, but
Have you seen Three Body Problem or have you read Three Body
I
Problem?
seen up to like 5 episodes and then I stopped. So I
You
heard it's
should
great.
read the book.
Oh
Actually,
yeah,
read the book.
okay.
Rohit actually watched the series. I insisted again and again you should read the book. It's
I know the
much
entire
better than.
ending of that series because I saw like YouTube videos after videos
Oh,
of folks who create, book summaries. So now I already know what happens.
I have been reading Three Body Problem from past 2 years. I haven't been able to complete the entire series. I have read like one book. The second book is almost done,
mhm.
but like it's even for me, it's like extreme delayed gratification. For 2 years, I'm waiting for the ending.
That's amazing.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, in that they harness the sun's energy
Mm,
to actually communicate with the outer extraterrestrials. Like they amplify the message through using the sun
The radiations of the sun, yes.
radiations. Yeah,
fascinating. Even like even not to get too into this, but like how they theorize or there's theories that the pyramids and like a lot of ancient architecture is ancient real technology for kind of like similar position. But yeah, I mean, the last thing I'll say on my side about all this, all we're really working with is information. And
Hmm.
I have this theory that we are the universe experiencing itself, but more specifically, it's information working with itself. So, for example, our human body, our organs, everything is like matter and particles formed a certain type of way that allows it to have stimuli process of everything, right? Like when we touch something, smell, see, and develop thoughts, it's all coming from us processing information. I have a theory that every living thing in the universe shares the same principle of its information processing information. Each entity just does
yeah,
it differently. My thesis is that AI is an evolution of ourselves and this concept of information. AI is looking for a new vehicle to accelerate and just increases its possibilities of not going extinct. Even if we create AI, it's some form shape of us. It's the universe itself. We help create it, and it's just like this new stage in evolution where information just wants to accelerate, and AI is the new vehicle for that.
Yeah, I just finished reading Elon Musk, and I remember in one chapter, Elon and what's his
Sam
name, the
Altman.
founder of Google, Larry Page,
Uh
they
huh.
got into a big fight tent, and this is exactly where the difference of opinion was. Where Larry Page was like, if AI ends up creating a higher form of intelligence, so be it, and if that is the end of humanity, I mean, even humanity has come off from some other intelligence which was less than us. And so we evolved, and hence here we are. And so if machines do the same, then what's wrong with that? And Elon had a fundamental disagreement with him, got into a big fight, tried to, which is why he started OpenAI in the first place.
I
And
think
then,
yeah,
stuff happened. But he, Page accused Musk of being a speciesist at that stage. And Musk was like, dude, I am pro life, I'm pro human, whatever.
for a human.
And
Yeah,
so, I mean, it's an interesting debate because, I mean, I also think about it. I'm like, I mean, maybe it's just a natural progression of intelligence, right? Like maybe that's our next stage where we become like these exoskeletons, or man machine combination is where I feel like the next era of transition and innovation is going to be happening
it's yeah.
on that.
It's
No
crazy we're here.
one.
We're
Yes,
experiencing
for sure. It's so great that we are experiencing all of this.
crazy times.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tint, for
Thank
being a
you
part
guys.
of
It
today's
was a
episode. It
really
was so much
fun
fun.
conversation.
Yeah, this is really fun. I'm glad we were able to get into the granular details, but also think about the big stuff.
Amazing.